All right. Calling this meeting of the Tinmouth Equity and Inclusion Committee to order, March 21st, 7:01. First order of business. Do we reorganize before we review the agenda?
You should reorganize first.
Yeah. All right. We're going to reorganize our committee. Hopefully there'll be more people on it in the future and people want to be reorganized again. We can do that.
I nominate Michael Fowler as the chair.
Any other nominations?
I nominate Meadow as the chair. Oh, I'm not on the committee anymore. Never mind.
It was a nice idea.
I'll nominate Meadow as the chair.
Okay, any other nominations? Okay, all those,
Should we have some discussion?
we can have discussion. Well,
Sometimes if there's a nomination, you ask for a second. I don't know how the small
Sure.
boards work, but typically it's
you need to have a second for a nomination. Okay, is there a second for Michael's nomination? Is there a second for Meadows' nomination?
I'll second.
Okay. This is new territory for me. Do we now have discussion or do we, if there's only one nomination with a second, do we move forward? I'm looking at you because you've done this before.
no, never. Other than when the select board, all three of them wanted to be the chair and we ended up drawing names out of a hat.
Oh, funny.
There's never been a contested
Yeah, Yeah.
member chair.
Center screen there.
well, we can vote.
Or you can have brief discussion. I don't
Sure.
know. You got the 2-minute limit or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Well, no, there's no such thing with a 2-minute limit. We're in a group and can have a discussion about the best way to move forward with this committee.
All right, we're gonna keep it quick though, because I know that, we don't want our minute meetings go for too long. So we can have discussion, if anybody wants to have discussion. If you want to speak for 3 minutes, you can have 3 minutes to speak. Would you like to speak?
I'll let you go first.
I don't have anything to say.
Shall I say I thought you did a good job last time?
Yeah, I don't think that you did a very good job last time, and I think that, this particular group should probably think about going in a different direction, and I'm not sure that you are capable of doing that. And that's why I think that I would be I'm in a better position to lead this meeting. Especially with new people coming on, because 2 people have gotten off, and I think that we should actually try to have some more different opinions on this board, because it is pretty, it's, let's face it, it's basically me against everyone else in which who votes lockstep, and that's not really like a good representation of the town. It's not. There's a lot of people that, I think have some opposition to, the way that the directions that this board is going in. And I, quite honestly, and I'm sure that, none of you are going to vote for me because of the animosity that, I perceive from you all. But I'm still putting my hat in the ring because I think that I am the most qualified person to lead this meeting.
Anything else?
No, that was it.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything to say, or should we move to vote?
Someone has their hand up.
Logan?
While I agree with Michael that it would be wonderful to get more people with different opinions on this board, Michael, you didn't give any other reason of why you would be qualified, like why you think you would run a better meeting. And you recently stated in public that you don't even believe in equity and inclusion. So I think that means that you are not well suited to be the chair of this group, since this is attempting to be a forward-thinking group of things that you deem political, that are just about being good people and good neighbors. Like, you have animosity. None of us, I don't have animosity towards you. I sense a huge amount of animosity coming from you. So that's my 2 cents. Meadow runs a good meeting. She is very qualified for this position. And that's my 2 cents.
All right, anyone else? No? Okay. Well, we can vote for both. I don't really know how to handle the second or no second, so we'll say all those in favor of Michael for chair.
I,
Okay. All those in favor of Meadow for chair.
Aye.
So Meadow is the chair. Myself, I will stop speaking in the third person now. Okay, so moving on, we need to elect a new secretary. Vice chair. We need a new, well, Todd is not here. He told me he couldn't be here tonight. He apologized.
Who's that?
Can we
Can we
nominate
nominate someone who's not here?
Todd, even though he's not here?
That's right. He's not here, then he gets, that's what happens. All right, do I hear a nomination for vice chair?
I nominate Todd Dennis for vice chair.
Second.
All right, any discussion? None? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I,
Okay. The ayes have it. Todd is the vice chair. We need a new secretary. Any nominations for secretary? It's a really fun job. Logan can speak to it.
I do want to say, Logan, I really appreciate your minute taking, and I'm still working on the minutes from our working group. I'm just going through them before this meeting. And I'm like, oh, phew. So, yeah, appreciate it. But yeah, because I'm probably going to be doing those minutes. I don't want to do these minutes. So, sorry. Mm.
I'm gonna nominate everybody. Well, we need a new person. Maybe a new person can be our secretary. I'll nominate Rainbow to be the secretary.
Step in as secretary until if there's somebody else that comes in who would like to take that on. I'd prefer to, I'm already, yeah. I'd,
All right,
in which
we
case
have-
I'm
great. Is there a second for Rainbow for secretary?
I second Rainbow.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
I'll abstain.
Okay. That is everybody reorganized. Now we will review the agenda. Is there anything anybody wants to add? Or just questions?
If I could, the planning commission is wanting you to come on June 15th, by the way.
June 15th, that's my birthday.
Well, that's when their meeting is in June. so
Okay,
They have, it's full in April and something else. in May,
no,
so
that's fine. It's lots of time. I was
That's-
hoping it would be no rush on it, so. Sounds like a fun birthday party. All right. Minutes, everybody had a chance to review the minutes, review the recording, so we can approve all the minutes and vote whether or not to change them based on Michael's request. Are there any comments on the minutes?
Only that, I request that it goes back in that we were talking about the indigenous people of this area, like I had stated before. And then on the January 24th meetings, the open meeting law discussion in the working group, when the committee was first formed, the working groups were created with a misunderstood intention that they could operate outside the open meeting law. And I think it was pretty well established that operate outside of the open meeting law, and it was a flagrant violation.
Yeah, but
of
that doesn't have to do with the minutes. That
Well,
was,
no, it's in the minutes right here,
I know, I'm just saying that
but it's
your
misrepresenting.
discussion could have happened then, not now.
No, what I'm saying is that I'm disagreeing with these minutes and that needs to be rectified because it was very clear that you could not violate the open meeting laws, which the working groups did anyway. But we knew when we formed this group that you could not violate the open meeting laws. It
Okay,
only came to our attention because you brought it, but it was brought to this group's attention at the very onset when this group was originated. Gail was talking about it. and I
but we're
was
talking
also-
about minutes right now. So was this discussion did not happen during that meeting?
What I'm saying is that.
He
these
has
minutes-
2 points that he's making.
Okay, I'm
These
confused.
minutes are, this is an incorrect statement because you were not misunderstood. It was just a the working groups purposely ignored the open meeting laws.
My recollection, and I was the secretary taking the minutes, we used the words working group because Reen had told us that we wouldn't have to do minutes and things that way, and we thought it would help things happen faster. So it
Right,
was
you
just on
understood.
projects.
Gail
we-
was also,
She was telling us, but we were saying, all right, we're gonna look into it, we're gonna try and figure this out, and eventually we did.
anyway, back to indigenous.
Does everybody have a chance to review the recording?
I couldn't get it. From what, Logan said,
Oh, yeah.
it just came up blank. It didn't say.
Oh, shoot. Did anybody else have issues with the recording?
And so what I wanted to point out and reflect in the minutes is that I was talking about being indigenous and you changed the terminology to nativism.
And
I
she's the chair and she set the discussion topic. So the discussion in the
no,
minute
no,
was
We
nativism.
were talking about being indigenous and then you turned the word into nativism. And I corrected you in that it was not nativism that I was talking about. It was being indigenous to this area.
So,
And that is the
I-
clarification that needs to happen and be reflected in the minutes.
so I did change the discussion. If you reviewed the recording, I hope you had a chance to listen to the recording. Because it shows that as the chair, I changed the discussion topic from you identifying yourself as an Indigenous Vermonter to discussing nativism, which felt relevant based on your misuse of that word.
It's not a misuse of the word. I am
So-
absolutely indigenous.
We're
and
not gonna have that
We're not,
discussion right now.
but I
We're
wanted to-
reviewing minutes.
I know, and we're reviewing minutes, and it could have been rectified a long time ago. We could have just said, okay, and put it in and been done with it,
All right,
but
has anybody
don't-
had a chance to review it? Logan,
I did. The chair sets the discussion topic. The chair said what the discussion topic was. That was reflected in the minutes. Your wanting to discuss a different topic is not relevant to the minutes necessarily, unless you want me to add that Michael wanted to discuss this. The chair set the discussion topic as this. Would you like that change?
that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted to,
Okay.
I wanted to be notified. I wanted to be recognized that I want to talk about, being indigenous, not the term nativism. They're very different.
They are very different.
We're very different.
They're very different. And I was talking about in being indigenous, not nativism. And it's when you change the word, when the chair
Do
changes.
you know what the definition of nativism is, Michael?
What is it?
It's like xenophobia. It's like being ignorant to minorities.
So do you know the definition
All right,
of
so we're going
indigenous?
to, I did look it up, Michael. We're not gonna have that discussion right now because, one, it's not the appropriate sort of antagonistic discussion that we need to be having as an equity and inclusion committee.
But
That
what-
is not what we're doing
But
here.
what we were talking
So we
about
can review the
originally
minutes,
was
We can
discussing
approve the
the
minutes
words.
and we're
of-
going to move forward. We're not gonna be doing those discussions as the committee stands right now because of how it feels right now. And that's just not what we're doing, but we are reviewing minutes. So if we're ready to, Logan, if you want to make that change where
I will.
Michael would like it reflected that
Yep.
he is calling himself an Indigenous Vermonter
And I was,
and I
wait,
chose
I think we
to
need to,
change.
it needs to
Okay,
be worded appropriately because
Okay.
I'm wanting to have a discussion about what it means to be indigenous to Tinmouth and to Tinmouth. You changed the word to nativism.
I did,
You did.
just as a discussion
And-
topic. I
and-
wasn't changing the word, I was just
But
changing
changing the word
discussion
changes the
topic.
discussion topic.
True.
And
It's-
that is what I'm trying to get at, is that the discussion topic was supposed to be about being indigenous and
Yes,
what it means
all
to
right,
be.
moving
indigenous.
on. So I guess Rainbow is actually gonna be the one changing that. Sorry, Logan, I'm looking at you still, but
I'm
I got
gonna move that we accept the minutes with that change.
I hear a second.
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, excellent, okay. And we, I have to text my babysitter, I apologize, everyone. It's just bedtime routine moment, pause. Everybody can review minutes, the rest of the minutes. Okay. Can we move to, does anybody want to discuss the rest of the minutes or can we move to approve the rest of the minutes?
I think we just approved all the minutes.
that was my
Okay,
understanding.
was that our understanding? I honestly lost track, so that's fantastic. All the minutes have been approved. We've appointed a new secretary. We can cross that off. All right, Planning Commission request for the E&I committee to present on importance of including Tinmouth's statement of values in the town plan.
Would you like to share the planning commission to speak to this?
Sure.
So, at the last planning commission, and I should note that there are two other members of the planning commission in this meeting at this point, Kim Harbell and Rainbow.
Could I actually ask if who wants to speak to it? If there's anybody else who wants to speak to it?
Well, I'm the chair of the board, so I will speak for the board because I'm the chair of the.
I'd
planning
be happy
commission.
to also speak to it.
Okay, we'll
As-
have each of you have a moment to speak about it.
So we're reviewing our town plan.
Okay.
And we have language already in the town plan, and we have discussed it. We have discussed it at length, and then we brought up the topic of the statement of inclusion was also brought up, and the planning commission looked at that as well. There were some revisions that some people thought that, it could be shortened down. Some people didn't see a need to put it in at all, because we already have verbiage in the town plan.
Okay,
So we wanted to invite the E&I committee to come and make a pitch to what is the pros or cons of putting this particular statement into the town plan. Because the town plan is supposed to represent, the town values for the next 10 years, because
Yeah.
every 10 years we re-adopt the plan.
Rainbow or Kim, do you have any other comments?
I was gonna report as the research committee. The research working committee, and I was gonna report on my reading of the town plan and the presentations that the Rutland Regional Planning Commission made to our group about our energy statement. I can do
And-
that now or
That-
wait till the working groups report?
Maybe wait till the working group's report, just so we can stay on topic. Did you have anything specifically about this inclusion plan?
Yes,
Okay.
our energy part of our town plan will not be approved by the Rutland Regional Commission because of technical reasons, which
I'm just gonna stop you for a moment, just because we're on the topic we're talking about is including the statement of inclusion in the town plan.
believe it or not, this is kind of gonna knit together.
Sorry.
One of the deficits of our energy plan is there is no E&I component in it. So Rutland Regional is requiring an E&I component in the town's energy plan.
Well, it's not entirely clear if the verbiage that we have would suffice or not. That was left up to a question for the Regional Planning Commission to help us answer.
Rainbow, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, so just to kind of fill the board in on kind of where this all began. So Bob Lloyd had brought this to the planning commission asking about adding this into the town plan. And then because I kind of spoke to it as Michael and I are the only two. Oh no, also Kim. I ended up reading the statement to the group because a lot of the folks hadn't actually heard it yet. And there was a lot of discussion about how in our current town plan, we already have that statement, which states that I can just read it. It says, to maintain a population consisting of residents and families of all incomes, ages, and types, which I think is great. And I think the understanding from my perspective, and I think a lot of other people's perspectives and Bob's, is that this, this adding this would be kind of emphasizing that. And one thing, Michael, you brought up at the last meeting too, is about this, the town plan being kind of documenting our history as well. And so to me, it makes a lot of sense that the addition of the Equity and Inclusion Committee to our town and the acceptance of this statement would make sense to be a part of our town plan, which is kind of, supposed to be this living document that kind of reflects it's not binding or anything, it's just to reflect our movement, our hope as movement forward as a town. And so I think adding this would absolutely feed into that and make sense. One place we got really stuck in conversation was certain members, and it was, Michael mainly was really stuck on this being a political statement. I did ask for what parts he saw were political to be pointed out, but we didn't quite get there. So, and both Bob and I, who are the ones that spoke to it, both stated that we didn't see it that way. And so that was kind of a place that we got sticky. And so the reason why I suggested that maybe we talk as a group and even maybe come into the planning commission is just, there seems to be just maybe the need for more understanding. I don't necessarily think it needs to be a pitch, but yeah, and I don't know how we want to go about it, as far as how to communicate, but just wanted to bring that forward to the group to kind of discuss.
Great, thank you. I wrote something to kind of get the ball rolling as an idea for how we could present this to the planning commission. So I emailed that out. I don't know if everybody had a chance to read it.
So.
Hold on, Michael, I'm speaking. When I'm finished with my point, you
I
can have
thought
a
you were
turn.
finished.
It's okay. I've since heard some feedback from some committee members, and my thought on that now is that we could try to have dialogue with individual commissioners as committee members. We could reach out. You could email that along with a personal comment, or, you know, the request to have a conversation as a way to talk about it more. If they have questions about it, it may be more comprehensive. Does that make sense? Like a way to talk about it ahead of the meeting in June, so that we can kind of make sure everybody has an understanding of where it came from and why it's important. So that is my follow-up to that suggestion that I emailed out. Does anybody have any?
I have two
Sure.
questions. How much of this did you take from the Declaration of the State? Is this?
No, it's not verbatim. I like
90%?
edited it.
Okay, so FYI, like, getting this 2 hours before a meeting isn't very helpful for me to digest it and read it.
Sure.
So it would be like something like this needs to go out like a week beforehand, so
I'm just getting
members of the board can actually look at it.
the ball rolling.
What I would suggest, and it's something that Rainbow pointed out, is, you know, I've referred to this as the diversity, equity, and inclusion. It does have a lot of political roots, and I would task this board with researching the history. And I think that when you research the history, you will understand that it is, in fact,
All right.
just hear me out, because you know, someone has said it is political, and I think having an understanding of the history that comes with equity, inclusion, and diversity is very important for people who are on the board to understand. It has a very long history to
Okay,
get to the point where it is here. So when you have people that are saying, I have a problem with the political aspects of this, you guys will have a better understanding of where we're coming from, or where I'm coming from the historical, you
So
know.
what parts of our Declaration of Inclusion are upsetting to you? Like, what aspects of it do you not like?
I think the aspect that you're implying that this is going to represent the entire town. And
What parts of it are
I think
political? Like, what parts are not
all it's
okay?
political. So it's not necessarily, it's not a matter of okay or not okay. It's a matter of, you know, you're not representing the entire town. And
With that statement.
With that statement, because there are people who are not going to agree with that statement, and it is inappropriate for a municipality to try to make a blanket statement like that. So I'm
going to stop you right there just for a moment, because the entire state has accepted a very similar Declaration of Inclusion.
And
I think we're not
some towns,
going
so you can
to-
interrupt me, I can interrupt you. There are some towns that are going back on it, and I would like this board to do their due diligence in researching the history of this.
I'd like to give someone else an opportunity to speak, because you are taking a lot of time. Logan?
I've heard Michael use this refrain on multiple topics, that we need to know the history is complicated and it's political. I hear no solutions, and I've heard no thoughts on, you know, to just state a problem and not offer a solution is not helpful. And history is complicated because, like, I want to just a quick analogy, if I may. I studied anthropology. Anthropology now is a wonderful science about learning about other human beings and how we're connected, and you know, cross-cultural, intersectional connection. It used to be cutting people's head open to prove how Black people and Indigenous people were non-humanoid, and that white people were superior. That's the history of anthropology. It's very different today than it was. And so to continue to hold on to this idea that just because something you don't necessarily agree with how it started doesn't mean you can't get on board with where it's going. We're looking towards the future and trying to make a more equitable future. Michael, you say that the United States is not an equitable place. Well, we're trying to do our teeny tiny little volunteer part to make our world that we live in, our tiny little community, a better place. So I'd love to hear ideas on how we can work together to make that possible instead of just constant negativity and blocking every route. Those are my thoughts on the subject.
Melody? You're muted, Mom. You gotta unmute yourself.
I know that at least 100 towns have adopted equity and inclusion. And I know moving forward and the progression of this is that for grants, for different town municipality things, just like the energy, you need to have a statement on equity and inclusion. It's the future. And so as a planning commission chair, as anybody, the select board, anybody involved with the town, the business of town needs to be abreast of this and needs to be in front of it. And I think it's important, and it's not going away. Okay.
Hold on. Anybody else want to speak to it? Rainbow?
Yeah, and I think also there's just an importance to kind of narrowing down to really what we as people in this space, in this town, are really talking about, right? Like the intentionality of this group of humans that are, you know, trying to do this work, and also the intentionality of this piece of writing, which I know a lot of community members had gotten together and spent a lot of time really actually trying to make it as open and as unpolitical as, you know, as possible, so that it would be more easily, you know, accepted by all members of our community. And again, I've, you know, because this has just come up, I've spent a lot of time with this statement, and I still struggle to see, I don't know, I'd be curious, maybe be curious to go even through it, you know, sentence by sentence or word for word, and really see what is the, you know, all I see here is us just pledging to really be welcoming and want to put it in our plan to ask our future residents to do the same. You know, it seems pretty straightforward to me.
Lotar, do you have anything to say?
No, I'm gonna stay out of this one.
Yeah, okay.
Pass on this.
And I would just reiterate, you know, I would task that this board, you know, do their due diligence and research about equity, inclusion, and find the histories behind it.
Can I
So
just
when-
ask that, can you share whatever this history is? Because, you know, you tasking us is not very helpful, but if you have information that you want to share and you wanted to send it to the committee for us to talk about at another meeting, maybe that would be helpful, but
Would you like me to just explain it to you, or would you like to
no,
do the
I
research
think
on your
if
own?
you wanted to do the research and bring it to us, you're one of the only members not on a working group. So maybe that could be one of the things that you do, since you feel like you have a role on this committee.
So
That can be
my
your,
role
task.
can give you a history of
but not at this
equity,
meeting. This
but
is
not
not
this
what we're
meeting.
doing.
But does everyone think that that's a good idea? That I will come back to the board, our next meeting with a comprehensive history of equity, inclusion, and diversity.
I
If-
would.
if that's what you're
sug-
asking,
My
I will do that.
suggestion would be that you come back and explain to us the political aspects of our town's declaration of inclusion and why that is not appropriate for us to have in our town plan.
Absolutely.
Great. Does that sound okay to the committee? Rainbow?
Yeah, and I think I would just suggest maybe, I don't know when our next meeting wouldn't be until June either, correct?
No, today it's March now, so our next meeting would be in May.
Oh, it'd be in May. Yeah, I would almost wonder if, again, there's no rush really. I think it'd be great for us to really kind of, I guess maybe one more meeting would be enough time, but I would say, we don't have to give, we aren't bound to that June 15th
June,
date.
that's true. Maybe we
So,
need more time.
Oh, I don't need more time. I will
Michael,
give you a
we're-
comprehensive.
We're not worried about that. How about what the rest of the committee feels about, rather than, how does the committee feel about sharing, the importance of this statement? How do we feel what process do we feel like is an appropriate way to go about it? I had the suggestion of committee members reaching out individually to, planning commissioners to answer questions and share that. Does anybody have any other thoughts on that? And is that something that people feel like they want to do?
Sorry,
I don't
what?
Go ahead, Rainbow.
I was gonna ask too, I don't know if if there are any statements of support or anything from when it was being formed in the past, or if we also want to reach out to other members of the community or not. Or if that's necessary. I don't know if it's necessary. Again, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
yeah.
I still don't feel like it needs to be a picture proving anything, but yeah.
I had made the suggestion that we could ask the question on Front Porch Forum or have a discussion on Front Porch Forum about it. Just asking the community on Front Porch Forum if they feel like it should be included in the town plan or not.
Put it in tails.
Put it in tails. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
That sounds good. Okay.
Yeah.
It could just be sharing the statement and asking whether or not it should be included. Or should there be more to it?
Or less.
Rainbow?
Yeah, I don't know if I don't even know if a lot of community members know exactly what the town plan is or its purpose. So maybe having a little bit of an explanation of that too would be good. Yeah.
Maybe we can draft something and talk about it at our next meeting in May. And then we could send it out and have discussion, and then maybe we'll go to a planning commission. When is our next meeting? Or we could push it back to go to the planning commission and not until like July or August, just so we have more time to really talk
So
about it.
We're also we have a year to finalize our plan, so we're not in a huge rush to.
Perfect.
Um,
So we don't have to give you an exact date when we'll come.
if it doesn't work, and there's also enough cross pollination of both boards.
Yeah.
That, and to what I was about to say is the planning commission has had this discussion, I think, on 3 separate occasions. We have chewed it around a lot. So they're not unfamiliar with this discussion.
All right,
I seem to remember it being tabled 3 times. I don't remember discussing it 3 times.
Well, we discussed it the last meeting, the meeting before that, and then the meeting before that.
all right, well, I think to Rainbow's point, the commissioners hadn't actually read the statement until the last meeting, so maybe we all need a little more time. So we just won't plan on June 15th. We'll work on it as a committee and we'll come up with a way of talking about it.
Probably a good idea for the whole town to talk about it,
Yeah.
not just talk about it with
Yeah.
the planning commission.
Right, so if we
I
wanted to.
don't think a lot of people are
Mm,
aware
Yeah,
of the value statement that the select board adopted. Other
Right.
than
well, maybe we can
to work on
draft
that.
something for our May meeting so that we can then share something in the summer about it.
Maybe we could do like a pizza night and have a talk about it as a town.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So our plan for this is to create community discussion. First, we're going to draft something I can draft something and then the committee can work on it at our May meeting. Does that sound like a plan? Yeah, okay, great.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Yep, I'm excited to not have to go to a planning commission meeting on my birthday, so.
Aha!
They're actually a lot of fun.
All right, old business, welcome signs on roads. We talked about this a little bit at our last meeting. But we didn't really move forward with it. I think I forgot to put it on the select board agenda to talk about it. Did we talk about it? We didn't talk about it.
I think this committee was gonna work on it before they went to the select board. but
Somehow that,
The select board's gonna wanna know
yeah,
how many, where, what's gonna
Right.
say, blah, blah,
Right.
blah. And I think you were working on slogan and. other
oh
stuff
yeah,
to
we were
this.
gonna do the slogan for, right, that was what it was, the slogan. So I have dropped the ball on that because I forgot to ask the school about having the kids come up with the, ideas for the town slogan. But I was thinking we could write a community fund grant for the signs, and then if it doesn't work out, we just, if the select board doesn't want to put road signs up, we can just give the money back. But that way we would have some funding to help make the signs. How does the committee feel about that suggestion?
I like
Yeah.
that.
You get, you get a grant or something for this,
Yeah,
we either use it or we don't.
yeah, and then it's not a,
That's a win-win.
okay.
So you need to figure out who's gonna apply,
Yeah, right,
because I think the deadline is May 1st.
it's coming up, yeah, April's gonna fly right by. Is there a committee member who would like, or a couple of committee members that want to work on this? I know there's some community members that also are very supportive of this idea, and so you could have some support from community members in writing the grant as well.
I can work on it with Sherry if Sherry wants to work on it with me.
Right.
Okay, I will.
Great.
Okay, great. Right,
How many is the board thinking? Because there's several roads in and out of Tinmouth. You want to put one on every Clarendon, Danby, Middletown Springs.
my thought was, at least to start was on 140, like coming in from Wallingford and over by, 133 and 140.
So there's
Either
a
end of them.
sign at the bottom of the hill for Wallingford. So you could probably put it, you don't have to put it right on the town line. You could
Right.
Probably situate it someplace that is more visually appealing than
Yeah.
on the corner, because the corner is kind of a screwy place to put a welcome to Wallingford sign. It's
Yeah, we can figure out the logistics of it, but I'm not thinking, a sign everywhere, just on the big road that goes through town.
Yeah, because the little roads, they were only used by people.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Right. That was my thought. Does anybody else feel strongly about putting signs on other roads?
So you're talking one sign or two?
Two. Start, yeah, I was thinking we'd start small. Yeah, 2 signs on either side of 140. All right. Moving on, working group reports. Does anybody want to speak to the mutual aid working group?
I will, and if anybody else that's on that or has been on that committee could, no, I'm not muted, good, could also help me out. Our last working group meeting, we worked more on the town operators manual and divvied up, went through the table of contents, divvied up who would specifically ask people that knew about, say, the school, things like that, to look it over before we would actually take it to print. So we've also asked people to respond whichever way works best for them, either electronically or hard copy, with their changes in red, so that will help us out. So it would be obvious. And we're going to follow up with the folks that we've contacted, and then hopefully by May we can get that that information back. And we're very happy that Logan has moved and has a house. Very sad to see her go off the committee. And Sherry, I know that you'll still be active, just not on the committee. So I'm thankful for that. And I guess that was all we pretty much, that took a lot of time. So that was pretty much what we accomplished. So.
Great. Anybody have any questions? No. Rainbow, did the research and development committee working group meet?
So at our previous meeting, we had dissolved that working group.
Right. Yep. Sorry. I'm just like
Worries.
brain's not at it. Great. So we don't have any other working groups at the moment then. So we move on. Excellent. Members' concerns. I do have one. More about members who represent the Equity and Inclusion Committee, and what we say publicly does matter. And Michael, you were at a school board meeting and you spoke very negatively about equity and inclusion. And I
So
think
if you're going
we-
to chastise, hold on, stop. If you're
we
going to
just
chastise me over something that I
have
said at
to be
a different
careful
meeting,
about what we say publicly if we're representing an equity and inclusion committee, because I think the purpose of an equity and inclusion committee, and the purpose of our equity and inclusion committee is to be very welcoming and inclusive. And we've been really trying, but I think you speaking out negatively about equity and inclusion while being an equity and inclusion committee member is somewhat bad form, I would say.
I have every right to voice my opinion at a school board meeting. I have every right to voice my opinion here at an equity and inclusion meeting, because if you want to truly be inclusive, every voice needs to be heard, not just the voices that agree with you, And I would appreciate if you want to have a conversation or try to chastise me, that is inappropriate behavior on your part as the chairperson. We can have a conversation,
Okay.
absolutely. But to try to do something
This is just a
on a meeting,
concern.
but it's directed at me for
Yes.
something that I said at a different meeting in a different context.
Well, it's been
And
brought up.
and I appreciate the civility. Let's not talk over each other,
Okay.
and let's try not to interrupt each other when we're speaking,
Sure.
correct? Like
Go for it.
we both want to be able to say things back and forth and have an open dialogue, because an open dialogue is what we want to have on a group. We
I'm
want to have
listening,
discussion,
Michael. I'm listening.
right? I think that it's very important, and again, I would charge this board with doing a deep dive into the history of equity and inclusion and why it is being pushed here now. And what I would like to do, my only concern is specifically, what would you like to know about the history of this statement? Would you like to know the history of the statement that, because this wasn't a statement, this was, manufactured out of something else. Would you like me to present to the board? And this is something that I would like all of you to agree on, because I'm not sure what I'm going to be tasked with on my new committee. I guess it's a committee of one, unless someone else would like to.
No, Michael, that's not what we're doing. What I'm saying is that, the existence of equity and inclusion committees across the state have a very similar charge. And if the members of those committees cannot be behind that, then that feels like the role of that member on the committee comes into question. I think different opinions are one thing, but not agreeing with the existence of the committee entirely is something different. And I think that that feels sort of where we're at.
Again, I think that we should do a dive into the history of this,
So
of these words, because I think they would become more.
we're just following what we're not inventing the wheel here. I mean, this is not.
I was the first one to volunteer to be on the Equity and Inclusivity
So,
Committee, and I'm
That is my
happy,
concern.
I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to bring my opinion to this board, which is kind of monochrome. Let's face it, like there is no real, and I
But
think
to
it's
the charge of the Equity and Inclusion Committee and Equity and Inclusion Committees as a whole, the charge of them is not to question what you're questioning. And I think it's important that as we move forward with this committee, we don't get bogged down with this politicalization of what we're trying to get done. I think we're really trying to focus on positivity and positive work. And it seems like you can't move past that. And so if we can't work as a committee and work through that, and we can't all feel welcome, and new people don't feel welcome joining the committee because of that, that negativity and that lack of belief in equity and inclusion by members, then it feels that's just my concern. So
my concern is that there are members on this board that have, that are not willing to look at a different perspective. And the blinders are very, very straightforward. And I think that I bring an invaluable opinion to any group in any organization. And to just say that you don't like the way that I'm talking about something in a meeting, and it is inappropriate that for you to bring, again, this is inappropriate for you to bring that up. Because
Well,
I have very
represent
valid,
the
I have
committee.
valid concerns about my children's education, right?
I'm
And
just bringing
the
up a
place-
concern
the
that
place that
was
I
brought
go-
up to me by several community members, and so I'm letting you know that it's a concern among the community, that one of our equity and inclusion committee members is speaking out against equity and inclusion. That's all. I am not going to entertain discussion around this because this was just my concern, and I don't just am voicing that. Does anybody else have any concerns?
I just am concerned about garnering more members or people to come onto the committee, and how are we gonna do that? What's the best way to like ask people ourselves, or how do we go?
Well, we can put it in tails. We can put the charge of the committee back out there. We can talk about what the vision is and what the purpose is of the committee. And talk about it. And you know, we don't have to get everybody all at once. We can just hopefully get new people who are excited about it to bring positivity, regardless of perspective. Logan?
Yeah, I don't want to task you all with anything now that I'm stepping away, and I do want to continue to be a part of these just as a community member. But to maybe, perhaps one idea of mine would be to, as a group, sort of redefine the goals of this group, because it's been over a year. And we've tried things, some things have been successful, some things haven't. So I think it's just as we, it's helpful to continue to touch back with the mission statement of this group. And everyone being then with that solidified in everyone's minds, it'll be easier then to translate that to community members, share the ideas, try and get positive energy into hearing people's voices, meeting members' concerns. What can we do as a community with this platform?
Sounds great. All right. Anything? All right. So we're gonna set our next meeting date. Let's see. May. The third Tuesday in May is the 16th. So May 16th at 7 o'clock. That work for everybody?
I may not be able to do that one. I may have a class that day, but yeah. Find out.
That work for you? Work for you? Great. That is our next meeting. Anybody like to make a motion to adjourn? Can I make a motion to adjourn? Who makes the
You can
motion?
just adjourn.
I just adjourn. I never remember that. For some reason, I'm always trying to vote on adjourning.
Some do it one way, some do it the other way, and some do it a different way the next time, so.
I'm just gonna bumble my way through it every time. Great. Meeting adjourned at 7:59. Minute to spare. We even started a minute late, so 2 minutes to spare.
I think originally it was booked for
7 to 9.